I don't know what they mean by that.
So that's the other side of the street than I was thinking. That's is Archer? Archer's the one that is right here.
Let's mute the computer. Hi, everybody. We are live here at Aaru Entertainment, a VR arcade, bar, coffee lounge, all the things. It's very cool. You should all come check it out. Who's texting me?
You should all come check it out. Like I can't really describe to you what's beyond this white wall behind us.
Just know that earlier today they were playing like piano medleys of Zelda music. That's the vibe they're going for here.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It's really cool. There's seat cushions on the ground.
Yep, they got swinging chairs up here.
Basket chairs.
We appreciate the employees walking very quietly, which is fine.
We've also got a Our Flag Means Death inspired.
Oh my God, it does.
Portrait.
Yes.
Steve Bonnet is over here on our left.
For people who come by, you should know that they want to make that into a secret door, and that will be the door for the back area here where the staff goes. So if you see that in a place that looks like a door, it is.
It is. But not currently.
No. But let me introduce my friend, Evan Barn, the host of Grow With Us, Intelsa's podcast.
Yes.
The Intelsa podcast?
Yeah.
A Intelsa podcast? Will there be more?
An Intelsa podcast. I don't know. Yeah, we do Grow With Us. Grow With Us is super fun. I am kind of the thought partner child behind it, and really what it is or really what I've made it at least is me being able to talk to people and have cool conversations that are kind of about different programs that they're doing in terms of like the tech ecosystem that we're building here in Tulsa. So things like the Holberton School or the Cyber and Data Analytics Skills Center, kind of all of these different ways and assets that are being built around the city. We're talking to people that are leading those programs and also people that are going through them and learning the skills. So it's all about jobs, people. And we really want to help a lot of Tulsans understand and help navigate the growing tech ecosystem, but also like the just growing job market that we're trying to help facilitate here in Tulsa. So it's a pretty ambitious podcast in terms of scope, but I do think that we have a lot of conversations that are very targeted for specific things. And I say and on every episode. And so, there's a lot of through lines. I joke and I'm silly and I'm I don't know, slightly effeminate. These are all things that make Grow With Us great. So I love it.
Let's talk about your other podcast that I don't know if you actually restarted it yet.
You're getting into my New Year's resolutions here in the middle of
September. Yeah. Listen, it's almost the Jewish New Year, so it could be your Jewish New Year resolution.
Then, yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't remember shit. Is my other baby, my other podcast baby that I'm really. I realized that. This year I substituted, getting that off the ground for travel. It's really hard to like pick up passion projects when you're not here.
It's true.
So yeah, I can't remember shit is really on the back burner right now, but I'm ready to fire her back up, honestly, because it really is such a fun idea for me. And kind of my first solo entrepreneurial venture too. And it kind of also triggers for me like how exciting a podcast network would be too, to have like support and to support other creators, and for that to be like something that other people can have vested interest in. So I want to bring it back. I probably have, the guest list is so long, like who I would have on. Also just because it's like my uncensored podcast, I feel like more conversations can happen. And I guess I should talk about what it is about. I can't remember shit is basically a memory podcast where I take a guest through kind of their highs and lows of memory as it relates to a specific topic. And so currently on Spotify, Apple Music, there are 7 episodes with various people in my life, whether I think my first episode's with my sister, who I live with now. But at the time when we recorded that first episode, she had just moved to Chicago in 2020 in the pandemic. And so I bet her episode would be a little different now.
Yeah.
but yeah, we talked about vacations, kind of like our highs and lows about vacations, and we realized that she is, at the time she was like a 19-year-old girl, and I'm like a 23-year-old guy. So like the age difference when her and I were vacationing, we experienced things completely differently. So it's kind of cool to like dissect that with someone that was there at the same time with me too. But yeah, we talk about a lot of stuff. I really like that podcast, and that's why I wanted to come back. So I'm excited.
We should talk off air about how we could use your other podcast as a way of maybe recording with some guests. That would also be good for both. So we'll talk about that off air. Not that anyone involved in Growth Us is going to watch this, but Shai Kaiser, the owner of this, he and I yesterday were talking about what we should name this part of town, and people have been throwing around a lot of names, and a lot of them terrible. The one he likes is Innovation Station, which I also like.
The Innovation District.
Yeah,
like we're kind of leaning into like there being a cathedral district of this. Like what are they called? We have the East Village. Like I don't know. I think a district or an innovation is very much a part of this.
We got the train right there.
We're innovating that train too.
Oh man,
we've got to innovate our way out of that train.
Why have a bridge for all the other streets but not this one? I assume racism, but
I just think it's silly that there's still trains, but it's weird because like I want trains, but I want trains for people, not for the transport of goods.
Listen, Amtrak. Why do you not run through Tulsa?
Build that thing.
Build that train.
We want it.
There was a free game on Xbox Game Pass this month. That was like a train simulator. I haven't gotten that much into it, but I'm like, man, trains.
It's logistically kind of hard, probably.
I mean, the problem is it's very expensive, and because America decided to have different trains than Europe, like we can't just buy trains from them. So,
great,
because our tracks are slightly a different size for reasons, because America. So anyway,
we all look into the camera. This is my first video podcast, so I'm not sure how to interact with the camera, but I'm looking at y'all.
Yeah, I go back and forth. Like if I'm talking to you, I'll look at you, and then if I have a point to make, I will point at the camera. Yep.
No, I think the Innovation District or the Innovation Station, I mean, as cheesy as Innovation Station sounds because of the rhyme, I do think it fits, but I love I think innovation needs to be in it in some way.
Yeah. And we were discussing how, like, since Welltown doesn't have an entrance on this side of the street, like they shouldn't count.
They do.
Do they have a side entrance?
They have the stairs entrance, so that gets you right up to the top. Yeah.
All right. Well,
and I think they're innovative. I mean, that place
is
cool.
True.
They got the igloos.
They do have the igloos.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's a lot of things like I mean, I think that the space that we're in right now will probably be like an anchor to this like innovation station too. So I think that Shai gets to have a good say in it, but also our folks at 36 Degrees North and also 3N, so the office that we just moved into, which I don't know if you have any space today. You should come see it.
I would love to see it. Yeah.
You should totally come see our office. It's also kind of like an innovation and collaboration hub because we just moved into a new office with 5 other organizations, and we went to the opening of the Holberton Annex like 2 weeks ago or so, and on the map they have like this map of the block essentially, and where the 3N office is, it said in quotes Tulsa something and something Tulsa, and I was like, that's so accurate because that's all of the organizations there.
They're all blank Tulsa,
Tulsa
blank
in there somewhere, but I will list them because they're all great organizations, me being a part of one of them. We've got in Tulsa, of course, an organization that I am a representative of, and kind of Grow With Us is connected to. So in Tulsa, Tulsa Remote, Tulsa Responds, Campus Tulsa, Tulsa Service Year, and I think there is one more that might be escaping me. Or maybe it's just those 5.
That sounds like all of them.
That sounds like all of them. But actually also, I don't know if we're able to, I won't say this on there, but yeah, I think it's really cool in like a weird way of like curating who you co-work with in a way. If you've ever been to like a co-working space, it's like, oh, you're interacting with like some contractor or some real estate agent and then some like software engineer, but like we're all kind of doing the same thing in the same space for the same mission and the same goal. So it kind of just makes a lot of sense.
And I mean, considering that like they're all nonprofits technically, right?
All of us, yeah.
So like the biggest problem in nonprofits is when you're partnering with other nonprofits is like breaking down those silos. And if you're literally all in the same building, that makes it a lot easier.
100%.
So, and I'm glad people got away from naming things like blank 918 or 918 blank, because that would have made your building even more confusing.
I know, because we're 3 in. It's only 2 things that you got to say. I agree. I don't want any numbers.
No, I mean, it will be confusing for people who show up for meetings with one organization, but they can't remember the exact name of the organization. They're going to be like,
something Tulsa.
Yeah. Like, who's got a meeting with blank? You should get the 36 degrees north like entry system where you have to type in your name.
We
and like,
do.
Oh,
we
nice.
do have that. Yeah.
I find that handy because sometimes I'm like, I honestly can't remember the name of the person I'm meeting with, but I know I'm meeting them here, and I put in my name, and then it would connect
help
me.
you find it. No, it's super cool. We actually like are very. I guess if you get the chance to go, you'll definitely be able to tell that Aaron Miller had a hand in being a part of this project, because really there's just impeccable, I think, like furniture design, functionality of like the technology for like the room reservation and things like that. Basically the way that I know this is kind of turning into an office plug, but I do think that it's really cool, and a space that I want to be open to people too. So, but basically how we split it up in terms of like who's working where is we call them like neighborhoods. And so like there's a cluster of desks towards the front entrance where in Tulsa's neighborhood is, but also part of in Tulsa's data and research team. So Jake and Patrick, who have been on the podcast or on Grow With Us before, they are actually in their cluster of desks upstairs near the Tulsa Innovation Labs team, because they're so cross-functional. So I don't know. I mean, I just think a lot of smart decisions were made, and kind of fielding a lot of people's opinions, because I mean, getting 5 orgs to agree on how their office structure is going to be is no small feat, and that's why it took us 1.5 years.
Listen, if Aaron Miller, if you're watching, come by and talk to me.
Yeah,
haven't talked to you in a while. I miss you. Probably busy, but so yeah. I mean, what's funny is like, you know, people who know me seem to know me mostly from Pod for Good, which is good. And you subscribe, Pod, the number 4 good. Doing a live show tomorrow here. Sign up for it. It's on the internet. You and I have like chosen a lot of the same guests. Like, we are interested in the same people, and that's because from 2 different perspectives, we are interested in talking to people who are trying to make Tulsa better, either economically, socially, or sort of a combination of the two, because those are, you know, intrinsically tied together. Yeah. So, which I've liked, but you're much more organized than I am at getting guests. And so I'm like, Eric. I was like,
do you know it's just an email?
I know, but I'm like, it's a difference between when you're working at a salary job and taking 5 minutes to do another task versus when all of your tasks are like, some you get paid for and some you don't get paid for, and where you put the priorities. And that's the problem I run into. So
fair. And I it's funny, like I say, it's just an email. It's probably the first thing I want to offload as soon as I get.
Scheduling takes the most time.
Oh yeah.
No. That's why there are like websites where you can find pod guests, where like you just put like what you're interested in, and then guests will put what they're good at talking about, and then it'll match you with them, like Pod Match or whatever. I don't want to say the exact name because they don't sponsor me, but
we should make that for Tulsa also. I think that'd be super helpful for us.
Yeah. I mean, people like talking, you know, people still find going on a podcast to be fun,
which is great. And I think that I don't know if that's going to go anywhere, hopefully, because I do think that this I want to say it's an art form, or this medium is like, it has like certain elements of vulnerability without the pressure of production, or the pressure. I guess in this live form, it's a little different because like there is kind of that like seeing eye, but you know, you're an editor, so you can take out some of the things that we might not want to be digested by the audience, and create something that we do want to. Which is a challenge too. I mean, we've had a couple on Grow With Us. We've had a couple episodes that haven't gotten past the cutting room floor, and that can be frustrating sometimes. But it's also like, I totally understand when it comes to where guests are coming from in their delivery, or in the way that I've prepped them to talk about certain things. That's a challenge. So I think that people are still excited to do it, and I don't think it's going anywhere. But I do think it could be. It might take a little bit of work on our side to get what we want out of it in the way, like it just takes a little bit of effort. that I'm not really good at doing.
No.
Or I'm learning, I guess.
Well, now that all of those organizations are in one building, I have one place to target for all the other podcasts I want to start in town. Because
Yeah.
I want all of them to have the podcast, and they all should, because they're all great marketing, advertising tools.
Yeah.
They're also fun. So, I mean, I enjoy them, even though I have to add them.
Yeah, and I haven't had a Tulsa remote staffer on Grow With Us. I haven't had a representative from Campus Tulsa on. We just had our first Tulsa Innovation Labs guest on, and like I think that kind of something that I might pitch to Chelsea, I guess, is that like Grow With Us be kind of the podcast for all of those in some way through. But I mean, that means that I get to be a part of that, which is cool. So
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Grow With Us will be. It can't be any other like more inclusive name than Growing With Us, but maybe we will all grow with us.
Yeah.
Instead of just in Tulsa.
Grow With Us, Tulsa /918 /
more than Grow With Us. Growth. I don't know. We're spitballing.
We are. So like this Spark Summit that's happening right now. If you don't know, you should come to the Innovation Station Hub / District.
Yes.
Here near
trademark
near Holborn and Welltown and the train.
In the Arts District of downtown Tulsa.
Here's my question: is it still in the Arts District?
Yes.
Okay.
Arts District, I don't think is going to go anywhere, but this is going to be a division of the Arts District because we've got the baseball field also in the Arts District.
Really?
Yeah, technically, and well, I guess technically that could be Greenwood, but that's why I want like. And I don't know.
Well, because it's on the other side of the highway. I feel like the Arts District is the other side of 244. That's what I've always understood it to be.
Wait, the baseball field is on this side of the highway.
Is it?
Yeah. You go to.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
It's so big though. I mean, it backs up right to the edge of it, the highway. You get a good view of the field on the highway.
Yep. I've always waited for a home run to get hit onto the highway, but it hasn't happened yet.
Not from the drillers.
No.
No, I'm joking. No shade to the drillers.
Speaking of Tulsa sports teams, did you see that we're getting another like indoor football team that they're also calling the Tulsa Oilers? Like they spent like 6 months asking for feedback on a name, and they just decided to call this. It's owned by the same person who owns the hockey team, which is also called the Tulsa Oilers. So 2 Tulsa Oilers now. Which I think is silly.
I also think
they have different colors, I guess, but
I have the Tulsa Talons.
Yes.
Back the Tulsa Talons.
Yes. Oh God, arena football. They made the mistake all leagues do that they have to have their season at the same time.
Yeah,
no, like have it when we don't have football. That's what makes those leagues great.
Yeah,
I went to like
football. 2 Talons games as
they
like
were
a
so
kid,
much
and
fun.
I really liked it actually.
They were so much fun. I had friends who had season tickets and would come visit me in the Northeast because the Tulsa Talons were on the road playing like the New Hampshire team. And so we'd go to away games for the Tulsa Talons, and it was great. So
that is so funny. I felt like you were going somewhere with talking about the Arts District and the Innovation
I was.
Station.
Where was I going with that? Well, I guess like the naming of districts and how they function and downtown sort of rebirth. I feel like it's focused around an idea that then gets built up and then sort of shifts, right? Because
yes,
I mean, innovation and art do go together, and that's what the Spark Summit's kind of about.
Yeah,
it's just interesting. Like, in your imagining of what is happening, would this innovation hub be like a subset of the Arts District, or is it like its own separate but connected thing?
That's a great question. I mean, in all honesty, I kind of want it to be, or I guess I see the purpose of both. But I think that really like one of the purposes of like this event and kind of the direction that a lot of our organizations are trying to go when we have a mission statement of creating a vibrant and inclusive Tulsa, that I think that being separate can kind of be confusing. So if it's like, I don't know, I guess my urban planning hat isn't necessarily too refined in this regard, but I think that I would like be able to easily understand that this is the innovation station, if you will, of the Arts District, and over 3 streets over is like another area, but also like this seems like the first sub thing to grow out of the Arts District that feels separate.
Okay, so if the Arts District is like Universal Orlando,
okay,
right, then the Innovation Station /Hub would be like the Harry Potter section.
Yes.
Right. It'd be a subsection of a bigger area.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So is that what you're thinking, sort of?
Yeah, and that would, I think, pertain or tailor to what things happen here, like beyond the, I guess, beyond the like branding, but like the actual businesses that like are sprouting up here, or the direction that the marketing would go or whatever, is to like actually pigeonhole this place as the place that innovation happens. But I think the issue with that is that I don't want it to be the only place that innovation happens. That's sure, we can lay claim to like this is an innovation hub, but I think we'd be remiss to think that like Tulsa's not innovating everywhere. I mean, there's so many different things happening, and yes, we house a lot of it here, but I don't know. I think there's an opportunity there to like create that conversation, or to broaden it beyond this. I think the innovation station should expand and go out instead of centralize.
Well, yeah. What's that great like co-working space / coffee shop on 51st? I can never remember the name of it.
51st and
like Yale. It's like begins with like a C. It's like the something. Anyway, viewers, if you're watching, put it in the chat.
The Brute? No.
No.
I don't know. They're not there.
But it's a really cool space where they took like these like storage garages and turned them into like co-working spaces or offices you can rent along the strip. Yeah, it's really cool.
That's really cool.
It's like,
and they got a Dutch Bros right there.
They do have a Dutch Bros. Every time I want to try a Dutch Bros, I drive by it and it's slammed. I'm like, I don't want to try it that bad.
Yeah, no. I want it.
Like, how much better is it than any other coffee drink I could get?
Not
like, is
that
it?
Much better.
Yeah.
But get this, there's going to be one way even closer to your house, at 11th and Yale. Well, not like, I guess you moved, but
I moved. Yeah, so closer to you.
Over there. Yeah. It's in that area. We're getting one closer to this area.
So,
not a huge Dutch Bros fan, but not a huge like. I don't really ride or die for any coffee.
yeah. Also, like, I don't like things being called like something Bros. I don't know. I feel like we're done with Bros.
Yeah, we might be done with Bros.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Back to this. I don't know. What are your reactions to my thoughts? I'm curious about your. It's a great question. I'm curious what you think.
Oh, I mean, I think a lot of things as far as like marketing and people's feelings about things, a lot of it is a sort of self-fulfilled prophecy. So if people start talking about something being real, people will accept it as real. And so if we do talk about the Arts District and the Innovation Station / Hub, like, people will think that whether it's a reality or not, but in the thinking it, make it a reality. So, I mean, again, just in my 4 years back now, 3 years, no, 4th year back, 5th year back, 2017, 5 years back. 5 years back, I've already seen like so much more change in downtown, and downtown was already massively changing while I was gone.
Yeah.
And one, it's just nice to have, and two, you think about, I remember coming back in like maybe 2010 or whatever, and it was McNelly's, right? We went to McNelly's on a weekend night and it was slammed and there was nothing else around. Yeah. And like, just the fact that McNelly's became a place to hang out in downtown led to other things feeling comfortable being downtown, and thus, like, the Renaissance.
Businesses started to thrive because there's things to do downtown. I think that's honestly and truly the most recurring like theme on Grow With Us for anyone that has a relationship with Tulsa, is how the downtown is changing. Yeah. And it's interesting to kind of, I mean, these are people that are like, I don't know, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, that like this shift has happened really quickly because Tulsa has the capacity to handle that shift really quickly. And the people are people are coming in and starting to change it fast.
Well, and I think, hopefully Tulsans will understand this. Like other cities that have big downtowns and active downtowns, there's still going to be sections of them that have nothing. Yeah. Like the financial district in Boston, where the place where I worked downtown was, like, no matter what was happening at 5 p.m., and on the weekends, it was dead. Yeah. But like, there were other parts of downtown that were slammed like 3 blocks away. And that's
thriving.
Yeah. And hopefully, they'll build more, we'll convert more buildings to apartments and turn some parking lots into garages. So it's not so hot down here in the summer. It's the heat reflecting off the ground. It's bad for the environment. All those things. But
there's lots of parking lot issues. We need to get someone from Downtown Tulsa Partnerships on the podcast.
We do.
I think they would have a lot of insight into kind of talking about like at least being the people that are thinking about the solutions to that. And that's what's I love those conversations.
Yeah.
I think it's such a good one to have in field and get ideas out there, because I think that especially with things like a downtown, like a sprawling district or whatever, you might think as an individual that you don't have a say in the way that it's crafted. And that's not the case, actually. Maybe they could work on expanding their reach a little bit, but like this podcast can help with that. So I want to help do that. But they need feedback. They want to know what to do with like large pools of money and large swaths of land. And they are listening, and they're only listening for a certain amount of time because they actually have to execute on the things.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part, but it's the timing, and you have to be an active participant in crafting what's going on down here to see what you want.
Also no city is perfected having both ample parking and not just being, a long drive of parking garages. So, and I think part of it is you want people to complain about parking because that means they are coming.
Yeah.
Right. And if you make it easy, like when things are easy, people don't feel like they have to give themselves the drive to go do it. Right. So like when you're going to, like if you're going to
everything about Tulsa, getting downtown is easy for me. And I think parking is not too bad.
No, I mean, like
we don't have a parking issue.
No, I mean,
the issue is how much there is.
Yes,
right?
there's a lot of empty parking lots that could be better used. We could compress them into, anytime a new building is built, they should come with a parking garage, which is I think what is happening.
Yeah.
Like with the WPX building.
Oh my gosh, I'm so ready for her. That building.
Her. That building's a lady.
Everything that I refer to is gendered in support of women. That's just my standard.
I like that. Just like people,
boats or ships.
Yep.
Or boats or ships.
Yep.
Boats or women.
In Star Trek, they refer to a lot of the ships as ladies. So there's one, like there's just something nice about, you don't want to call it a he, that feels weird.
I don't know. But I do understand the argument or the perspective that it might what's the word? Imply maybe the objectification of women, but I reject that. I'm saying that's not how I use it, but
listen, let us know what you think in the comments.
I digress on this very arbitrary statement.
But no, I mean, developing a ever-changing situation is a real challenge because anything they start now is probably going to be outdated or need to be changed when they're done with the project. So, it's almost like you have to leave well enough alone and see what happens first and then change. Like how they changed, was it Denver used to be one way and is now two ways?
They've changed a lot of those actually. Even in the arts district, I think Cincinnati and Detroit are also have one lane for one. They have one lane that goes in the opposite direction of it previously being one way. So,
which I know confused people for a long time. Get used to it.
Someone on the other side of the bridge where it is still one way, like of course still goes down the opposite direction.
Yeah.
I was like, lady, no.
I mean, here's the thing, like I kind of like one-way streets because like, Cincinnati, right? Like
love her.
It's Cincinnati, great street. She's the best. But like
the lights are synced and so easy to get through.
Yeah. Man, I was driving downtown yesterday and someone was just gunning from red light to red light. I'm like, dude,
no.
If you go 25 miles an hour, you're going to catch each one of these lights.
Exactly.
And it's like 4 lanes. Yeah, you go 4 lanes. Like you can just get onto the Broken Arrow Expressway really quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Traffic patterns.
Yeah, I got used to one-way streets in Boston. So even though sometimes the Google Maps would take me the wrong way on a one-way street, but that happens. At least it's not Apple Maps.
I was gonna say, I feel like Google Maps is. We could go into a whole conversation about this, but Google Maps is objectively more accurate. Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Except for the one-way street.
Except for that might have been my fault too. Who knows? I mean, Google Maps in downtown Boston is any GPS related thing is bad in a downtown with lots of tall buildings. So
and where things are constantly changing, lane direction shifting,
and and those streets weren't even straight. So I swear one street just goes in a U. I'm like, what is the point of this?
Boston is really weird. I was in Boston at the beginning of August, and like I think we went to I guess this is work related, but we went to a dispensary for my friend to pick something up, and
Sure.
it was it was in a bank, an old bank, and you could or an old post office, so you could totally tell. Like they still had the like
Yeah.
safety deposit boxes or whatever, like in the back, but it was where they were storing all the weed. It was hilarious.
There's both a hotel in Boston that used to be an old jail. That was really cool, and then
Ooh, jail hotel.
yeah, like
Starting to
no, like they made it very fancy. And like
unlike the jail.
Yes, yeah, like the restaurant had like a jail theme, but then also in San Diego we stayed at a hotel that used to be a bank, and it still had like the vaults and stuff. And that's a good reuse of things. Old banks are just cool.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is
down here in downtown Tulsa. Check it out.
Yep. So more old banks.
Yeah, more old banks.
I'm just getting emails. Not important. But let's see. How many people do we have watching? Still 2. One of those people is probably me. So
hey, 2 people. This is what I do on Twitch. I'm like talking to the one person as if they're in this chair right here.
That's true.
And I'm narrating them through my video game playing.
I've honestly thought about streaming my editing on Twitch just to see if anyone would be interested, because I do kind of talk to myself while it's happening, or laugh, or just yell at the person.
Getting a call from my doctor's office. I feel like I should take that.
Take it. We'll take a break. We'll be back in a little bit.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, no, it so would.
also we're back now, so
Okay, nice.
that's right.
I am.
Evan's just using Instagram, which is something I'm terrible at.
Do you have an Instagram?
I do. Rant9 is my Instagram for all things. I either had to choose the company name or my podcast name, and I was like, I already had so many Pod for Good things. I was like, I should make this Rant9. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you also have a Pod for Good Instagram account too.
No, I just post all my Pod for Good stuff on
Got it,
Rant9.
got it.
I just made Rant9 my business account on Instagram. So, and occasionally I post things
So
on
there's
it.
no tagging at Jesse Ulrich on Instagram.
No, but you tag at Rant9.
Post for approval process.
Yes, approved, selfie approved.
I love when it's that simple. Nice little thumbs up.
Yep. I usually do a finger point in pictures, but
I'm always this. I'm always throwing up the peace sign. I don't know why. I think it's a gay thing, but also I see everyone do it because it's just a habit.
I was gonna say who else I would stereotype with giving the peace sign, but I don't want to get in trouble on the internet. So
Let's not generalize here.
Yeah, Evan. So
me saying all gay people throw up the peace sign.
Listen, if you are an LGBTQ individual, let us know your thoughts on what hand thing you like to do in pictures.
Confirm or deny.
Yeah,
my thoughts.
Yes. I think we should talk more about how we call items she. No. But so okay, we're here. We're at this place, Aaru. Asked many times to make sure I got it correct. They're gonna have a Swedish military treadmill thing in that big room downstairs, where no matter where you are on it, it's directing you towards the middle. So you can be running in one direction, and it will redirect itself, so you're always in the middle of this thing. It's very cool. So
I'm trying to visualize that.
Yeah,
I feel like I've only been in something like that in a haunted house, something like that.
Actually, honestly, I think kind of haunted house related. But no, this, I mean, if you think about it, VR has the same problem that early video game systems had, which was the games are very expensive, and the systems were very expensive, and people wanted to try out the games before they bought the system, but you can't do that anymore because we don't have blockbusters anymore. So where else are you going to play VR games before you buy them? Here at this VR cafe.
Also COVID, but
also COVID. They have a UV cleaner for the helmets.
Love it.
Yeah. I mean, they still have to wipe it down, but
this place is genius. I kind of am still haven't processed that I'm in here now. And we just moved into our office, so we walk by this every day. And I'm like, when's Aaru going to open? And finally it's here. I'm super excited. And I can only confirm and admire and communicate to anyone listening that it looks great in here.
It's very cool.
Excited.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of places anymore that other than coffee shops where you can just sort of hang.
Yeah.
Right.
Public hanging is maybe I shouldn't phrase it like that. Public jauntering. Jauntering's not a word that I use. Literally. Poor use of words.
Yes.
That's what that sound is an indicator of. No, you're so right. Coffee shops are really the place to do that. Other than bars, but bars have a different expectation if you're gonna hang.
Yeah,
you have to be drinking.
And also they're not open during the day.
Yeah.
Right. And especially with a lot of the remote work and entrepreneurship, a lot of people have strange hours and don't necessarily work all day, or they do, but they also work at night or whatever. And it'd be cool to have a meeting here versus at a coffee shop, because honestly, most of the coffee shops in downtown Tulsa are almost too fancy for me. I'm a very basic coffee drinker, and I like a lot of cream and sugar in mine, in my coffee drinks.
Which
and
means you don't like lattes.
Yeah, and I feel at most coffee shops they look at me weird when I order the thing I want. And so
what's your order?
I mean, especially during the summer, I want something cool, so an iced coffee or a frap of some kind, or
that's why they look at you.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't actually I don't drink black coffee, right? I drink coffee because it has caffeine in it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not respectable for a 41-year-old man to drink Diet Mountain Dew anymore. So
what?
I mean, I do anyway.
50 and 60-year-old white women drink Diet Coke like it is nobody's business.
We're stereotyping again. We're stereotyping again. Mountain Dew, stop it with all the flavors. Bring back Diet Code Red. What's wrong with you? All right.
Diet Code Red.
Yeah, there used to be Diet Code Red. It was the best. And then
that's the one you're advocating for to come back.
Yes, I am. Because like it was just a slightly less, whatever the Mountain Dew flavor is, it was less than that. So like, I don't know how to describe the Mountain Dew flavor. I don't know if anyone's ever tried, but.
Oh, I've had Mountain Dew. I remember, I'm sure you do, especially if you're throwing out Diet Code Red. But do you remember the marketing campaign where they threw out all those different flavors, like the shock, the voltage, and it was super successful? I tried every one of those, and they were also delicious. But now I can't find them except for the diet versions of the seltzers. Do you know they do diet? They do have a Diet Code Red, but it's no sugar Code Red, but it's a seltzer.
But so seltzer. Okay, listen, I like seltzers. They're great.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a good way of like having an alcoholic drink with less calories.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't necessarily want to drink seltzer all the time because really what seltzer is to me is just like more of the carbonated water than it is flavor.
That's fair. I like that element of it though.
Like
that's why I drink a lot of seltzer.
My dad has a Soda Stream. He loves it. Right.
Is that I don't understand what those are. Those make water carbonated?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're seltzer makers, pretty much.
Oh, they can make anything a seltzer, basically.
Yeah, like
seltzer?
Well, I guess you could seltzer juice, probably, yeah. But they also have like flavors you can put into the water, so you can make your own Coke and your own root beer and your own kind of whatever.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I know that.
Does blow your mind?
Expensive, and I was like, why is this expensive? It feels like it's just a carbonator. But
no, it's like a way for you to make your own soda, really. So
it's going to be huge this holiday season. I feel like a lot of people are getting on the Soda Stream wave.
Yep, I mean the company's been around for a long time, and at least now it used to make a really very distinctive noise that sounded very much like someone passing gas.
When you drink seltzers,
it's true. They've fixed that now, but yeah, you can almost you can easily over carbonate something, and that is very interesting to drink. Like,
oh yeah,
I've never instantly burped while drinking something, but like
that's what overcarbonation is.
Yeah, it just it's very fizzy. So. This is an interesting tangent we went on.
Yeah, we went from coffee to this.
Brought to you by SodaStream.
I think that coffee, I guess that kind of brings us back to here. This is going to be a coffee shop here at Aaru. And I think downtown coffee shops are just creating more spaces to hang is interesting. You even brought up like taking a meeting here, and I was like, people are going to take meetings here. Yeah. Which is interesting. But people are also going to come here for brain breaks, which might be a cool idea. Yeah. To kind of think about like how, with remote work and with all of these like newer, or not newer, but just like non-traditional non 9 to 5 like work schedules. Yeah. Like this is something that I'm so glad I will have access to. Like, I don't know. I do adhere to like 9 to 5 just because it's easiest to be synchronous with my team that's here locally. But I think that I might try to change that a little bit if like, Mary Beth's okay with me sleeping until noon on Tuesdays or something like that. And that means I can get my day started at like a different time and maybe do something else. And why wouldn't that be an option for me if like the product or the production is happening, the work is being done? It's kind of interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why we force people into a setting where maybe they're not at their best. Like I'm not at my best between 9 and 11. I'm at my best from like 1 till 8. Yeah. And so that's where I get most of my work done. Yeah. My mornings are not great. It's hard, especially if you've like, I don't know. I feel like I've fallen out of like a great sleeping pattern due to traveling and like due to changing time. Like I was changing time zones like a lot, like in August, because we went to the East Coast, then we went to the West Coast all within like 3 weeks. So I was jumping forward and back and then back to normal, but normal didn't feel like normal, even though it was my like resting place. But yeah, I mean, I'm just a huge fan of remote work and this like flexibility and also kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but just this people getting, I guess it is like just people allowing themselves to communicate that their desire for flexibility, and for like work environments to actually be accommodating to that. I know I'm speaking from a very, I guess I will. I think it is a privilege to like work at an organization that allows us to do that. But I'm also not going to just take it as a privilege. I'm going to also advocate for other people to get the same access too. People should get paid a decent wage, and they should be able to work in environments that best help them get the work done. 100%. So
So apologies to all people who work in retail and have to deal with customers. I feel you as someone who used to do phone customer service for Sprint back in the day.
Yeah, there's got to be ways. I think that when we like revolutionize or I don't know, make these major changes in kind of like how the corporate business America works, it might, forgive me for using the word, but trickle down into like these other things. Except for like restaurants, like the only thing that I can't really think of like wanting to like change the way that they work, because there is so much charm and I guess like things that you can't separate from the business model.
So does that mean you don't want to have to pay wait staff minimum wage? Because I feel like we should do that.
I think we should at least pay them that.
Well, I mean, again, like right now they don't. They get paid like $2.75 an hour and tips.
Yeah, it's so variable depending on the business.
Yeah,
too.
and it's been like that $2.75 number hasn't changed in like 20 years.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, so listen, if anyone, and no one's watching, but if anyone is watching and they have kids who maybe are entering the working teenage years, like make sure they work in some sort of either retail or customer service job at a young age, and then they will, one, be nicer to every customer service person later on, and two, to learn how to really deal with people.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know, learning how to deal with your not your customers, your coworkers is also like a skill that you get from experience. And I feel like I've had so many different work environments where coworkers have either been a huge issue or like the reason that the job is good. And I don't know, it's weird to like think about, how tied my production or like what I'm able to do at my job is to other people, when I also want to be like an independent person that's able to like perform my own task or like, work independently.
Yeah.
But certain work environments are strictly collaborative, and like, we're using the example of like restaurants and things like that. That is a team.
Yeah.
If you're not communicating right with the team in that sense, like it just leads to so many inefficiencies and so many frustrations. And I mean, I've just seen the last place that I worked at in the service industry was like 2 years ago. And, we had bad managers, and the bad managers basically forced all of the bar staff to quit, and then the managers quit. And so I was like, I don't know how this restaurant's going to work anymore. Like, they're losing all their staff because we have like such a bad work culture. And that's crazy.
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, listen, we could talk about managers and how managers become managers, and how like American corporate structure doesn't actually train people for management. It just takes someone who's good at a job and believes that being good at the job makes you good at managing people doing the job, and that's not true. It's a different skill set.
Yeah, and we were talking about this in a session that we were doing earlier with kind of one of our sales consultants, and he was talking to us about like how we were basically like prioritizing how a manager, like what a manager's like top 5 jobs to do are, and like what those things are. And when we listed it out, like management, or I guess like leadership and training of your staff is definitely up there, but it's something that you need in yourself. So like this player coach is kind of how we described it. Thing was happening because if you're performing a job function like sales, and you're a good sales leader, or you're like a sales manager, then you're leading other people to do sales, and you also have sales quotas to hit too. So it's like there's just a lot of there's a lot of responsibility put on the one person that's doing their job well to then ensure other people do their job well, and then grow and develop themselves. But they can't do that when other things become higher on that priority list that they don't even get down the list. They get to like 5 or 6. It's wild. We're all overworked most.
Yeah. We all use different tools to communicate. I mean, I'm glad most of my clients are on Slack, so it's just not that Slack's my favorite, but at least it's one tool where I can talk to people, and it's all just sort of there. Mm-hmm. Even though Slack is making it very annoying to like search for old messages, because if you're only on certain accounts, you only get like a certain amount of days backwards. And I'm like,
oh, that's true. Yeah.
But
your message history or whatever is only for a certain day.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But Yeah, I mean, like it's one of the things where we have enough tools now where you can keep in touch with employees anywhere at any time, and
Yeah.
that's both a pro and a con because I always know like I used to have a boss at an old job who she would email me like late at night. She would also put the entire body of the email in the subject line, and eventually I asked, I was like, why are you sending me emails this late? Like, I feel like I have to respond to them and answer them. She's
Yeah.
like, no, she's like, I'm doing that because I'm going to forget if I don't send it to you now. Like, look at it in the morning. And it took me a while to be able to figure that out, but I got it. Like, now that I run my own business, like,
Yeah.
if I don't write it down somewhere, I'm going to lose it.
No,
And-
that's so. I mean, that's a great point. And we just had 2 days of retreats, and we literally had this conversation yesterday because we were talking about asynchronous work. And my team is like the business development team, and we're pretty small. So I think there's only 4 of us on the team. And my manager, I love her, Mary Beth. She's been on the podcast before. She's that person that sends emails at 9 p.m. at night. And but then again, I'm also like, she's also like a mother of 3, and like I know what her days look like. That is the only time that she can send an email, and I also can swallow the idea that she knows that I am not going to check it until the morning.
Yeah.
And now she doesn't even have to communicate that to us. She like at one time she was like sending these emails and then sending a Slack that says, "Don't look at this until the morning," which is like super considerate of her.
Yeah.
And basically just allowing us to grow into that instead of, just creating this unsaid expectation that we need to always be on for her, and we don't have to be.
Well, and now I don't know how Mary Beth responds, what program she uses for email, but like Gmail now has a scheduling feature where she could write the email and schedule it for the morning. I know people who use Outlook who you can schedule an email. You just have to keep Outlook open on your computer. So like that's a way of doing the thing without like stressing out your employees.
What's funny, she brought that up, and I think that is a good like kind of solution to that. However, I think that at least in our work environment, what we communicated is that that is a little bit of extra labor that she's already sending an email at 9 p.m. or like thinking about the email at 9 p.m. So to have to then schedule it to like, I know it's a very simple feature, but like, what if I just communicated to everyone that I might be sending you an email at 9 a.m. and you don't have to respond?
Yeah.
Or 9 p.m.
Well, my concern would be that email gets lost amongst all the other emails you get in a day.
Yeah.
I use Hey, which is a service from Basecamp.
Okay.
And they just added a feature where I can send an email, but before I send it, I can click a button and like that email, if I don't get an answer within 2 days, my email to them will bubble up in my messages. So I see it, which is great for me because sometimes I forget when I send someone an email
and how to follow up too.
Yeah. And
Google does that too. It'll say like, do you want to send a nudge? Like
Yeah,
this hasn't
nudge, yeah.
gotten a response in like 5 days.
Yeah. Which honestly is helpful considering how many emails we have to deal with a day.
Oh yeah, no, email management's wild. So another element of the conversation that we talked about yesterday was like how we as an org should like shift from email to like email and Slack, like how they can be not interchangeable, but one used for the other and one not.
Yeah,
and one not. So we
yeah.
kind of decided that like Slack should be for internal communication because it's an instant messenger
Yes.
and it has a great memory bank, and I think it is easy to find if you have the paid services.
Yep.
But like on an email, it should be only an external, and emailing is really hard to understand. If you get looped into an email or looped out of an email and then having to pick up the pieces, I'm sorry, it is confusing to read an email thread.
It really is, especially if it's going through like multiple programs
or if it's long. If it's like more than 4,
yes.
Like that is one of my job functions is to like a conversation will be had with people that I'm not involved with, and then I will be looped into the very end of the conversation to add it into the CRM. And sometimes it's really hard to find like what the information that needs to be input, where it is in the email. It's wild.
Yeah, and I know like some email. This is a very interesting conversation we're having. I bet people love. But like I know some email programs are able to remove the fact that in a chain of email responses, it can remove the repetitive nature of some of the previous conversations, but like they could do a better job of just summarizing. I don't need to see the message I wrote them 5 times, right? Just show me the answers, right? But whatever.
It's all about communication.
Yeah. I mean, Slack is if you're talking to somebody that you work with, Slack is a better way of doing it than emailing them.
Oh, and what one of my coworkers also yesterday was like, I'm a little bit of a Slack snob because I've been working in it for like 11 years, and I was like, whoa, it has been around that long, and so sometimes people are more familiar with that than like not email. Everyone's familiar with email, but like my experience with Slack is still only 2 years old.
Yeah.
Like I have not used this program for no reason.
we did an audio huddle at one point, which was great because like it wasn't a typing message back and forth. We just talked about the thing we needed to talk about that had a finite, a finite time period that we just needed an answer on something, and then we didn't need a record of it. We just needed to talk it out, and we did, and that was great.
Yeah, no, I
that
love
would have been like 6 emails or a really long Slack conversation back and forth. Like these tools are available. It's just remembering to use them and becoming used to them. So
well, and like I don't know, I might dive us into a deeper hole here, but like this is like stuff that these are skills that I've learned and I'm still learning them, but are like I only learn these things through like work. I feel like I only have access to Slack kind of via work. I guess there are other Slack workspaces that are non-paid versions, and I do have like visibility into them. But like in terms of managing and or managing my workflows and then managing how I communicate with people, like that has all had to be custom on the job, like not training, but like on the job experience.
Yeah.
So how else do you get that experience? I mean, I don't imagine like high schoolers are going to be on Slack, but like maybe like their coding class or something is.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, how do you get experience with this unless you're working in this industry?
That's a good point. I mean, I guess if Slack wanted to grow, they could make a sort of instant messenger type thing, because that's the other than text messages, we've lost all of the sort of instant messaging. It's all been separated by whatever social network we're on. Like sometimes I'll send
DMs have killed the IMs.
Yeah, I remember when AIM shut down. That was a sad day for me.
Do the sound effect. Oh,
sad. Yeah, AIM was big when I was in college. Well, that's how you knew if someone was in their dorm or not. Like. You know, and like we spent a lot of time on our way messages with like quotes and like links to music. It was a whole thing.
I don't want to say this, but I have to say it. It was real big for us in elementary school.
Oh God.
The same things that we
elementary school.
Yeah, I was like,
I didn't have a computer in elementary school. I mean, I did have a computer at home, but like, wow. All right, well, I'm old, y'all. But
I've been on technology a long time. That's another thing.
That's true. That's true. I remember a time before people had internet in their homes. So
yeah, we didn't have internet. We had a lot. Like when we moved to Tulsa in 2007, we got a laptop, and that was the only computer that we had. But before then, we had a desktop that like didn't work, and the only other computer I could use was at school. Or like it would be fun to go to my mom's work because I'd get to play on a computer.
No, my dad was very big into technology, so we always had a computer at home, and he would like get laptops from TCC for like testing and bring them home. And I remember the first laptop we were home when I was very little. It was massive, and like the front of it folded out, and that's where the keyboard was, and then like a tiny little orange screen. It was just DOS. So I was just like, playing around with that.
Yeah, see that I don't know what that means.
Yeah, so MS DOS for my old school nerds was the operating system before Windows, and it was all like the sort of terminal, right? If you're a Mac user, like it was all that was it. Like that was how you interacted with the computer. So like to run a game, you'd have to be like run space name of game .exe off the flash drive.
You're coding like to use it, which is cool.
Yeah. So
I like that. I that's kind of what I miss. I miss a little bit about like how intuitive a lot of our technology is, but there are like certain technologies now that I think are really cool where you are using it intuitively, which is to say that you're using it the way that it's like designed to do something that actually is fundamentally like coding. A good example of this is like in our automation software. Like we are coding in I'm trying to think of what the language is, but I think it's C# or some coding language. It might be C+.
C++, Swift.
It's one of those, but we are like stylistically coding, if that makes sense. Like we are, if I like want to send it basically, it doesn't make me feel like I'm coding, but I am coding. If you like break down what the software is actually doing, it's like, oh yeah, you're writing a line of code that you're telling this thing to do, but you're just like plugging in information instead of.
So sort of like
cool.
So like the Zapier model of
Yes.
coding.
Yeah.
So what program do you guys use for your automations, or are you just doing it in that one weird program?
It's our CRM has an automation tool. And
what's your CRM called again?
It's called Bullhorn.
Bullhorn, yeah.
And then the CRM, the automation tool was called Herefish, but I think Bullhorn bought Herefish, so now it's called Bullhorn Automation. And I don't know. No one from Bullhorn's listening to it, but Bullhorn kind of sucks sometimes.
Bullhorn, get your shit together.
But it was like a cool thing to learn.
Yeah.
And like it was weird because I felt like I was the only person. I like ended up becoming the expert on the team about like how to use the automation software, and it was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. You and Amanda Telsa Remote were the only two people dealing with Bullhorn. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, both of you were just like out of touch for like a month during that Bullhorn transition.
We were, yeah, it was like a 6-person project, and it was a lot.
Yeah, automation's interesting. Like I feel like there are ways I could make my life easier with automation tools. It's just taking the time to learn those automation tools
100%.
is not something I feel like doing. It does not give me joy. It like takes energy away.
It only gives you joy if it is like it's a noticeable or significant time saver. I guess like compared to the manual.
Yeah.
Like if the manual is also like fast, I just have to like convince myself to do it. Like I will probably opt for that rather than spending 3 hours to plan the manual stuff.
Well, and also like I have an issue where I will spend longer than it would take to just fix the problem the way I know how to. Spend more time finding a more complicated / easier way to fix it in the future. And like I've had to stop doing that because I have a limited amount of time, but I think I've gone too far where I'm not spending the time now where I could find new ways of fixing certain problems.
Well, let's talk about it with podcasting, because honestly, like I'm trying to think of like what automations even make sense for podcasting.
It's a lot of short keys.
The only thing like editing, I'm sure there's like ways that automations might be able to like fix editing. Like your one that cuts out the ahs and the ums.
Oh yeah, the script.
Like that's technically like an automation tool.
Yeah, and for like an Adobe Audition where I do like most of the mastering, I've assigned short keys to certain like plugins and to certain actions. But the problem is it's remembering that I did that, and an easy way of visually seeing those, because for example, there's like a plugin that like does volume leveling.
Yeah.
But one's for mono tracks and one's for stereo tracks, and I only made a shortcut for the mono one and not the stereo one, and I haven't gone back and fixed that. But Adobe Audition allows you to record micros where like it watches what you're doing with the mouse and makes a thing. So like I made a macro that like does 3 plugin things all together.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which is nice.
So it's like it's stringing together like actions.
Yeah, kind of like what you used to be able to do in like Word and Excel before Microsoft realized that was an easy way of like taking over your computer. But yeah, there's the Adobe Audition lets you do that. Maybe Premiere Pro does too, because I need to figure that out. Because Premiere Pro is where I'm spending most of my time learning things now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm doing video editing, and it is a whole other creature.
Premiere's a lot. Yeah. I like a lot of the YouTube guys that I used to watch back in the day, or just like, I guess, YouTube content creators, all did their editing in Premiere with like a lot of Photoshop too. Like that's the skill set right there. And I don't know any of it.
I honestly would not use Premiere Pro if they didn't make it so easy to bounce the audio out of Premiere into Adobe Audition for me to fix it. Because DaVinci Resolve is a lot easier user interface, but their audio editing I don't understand. So
yeah, that's kind of like that's one challenge, or I guess like thing that I'm thinking about when it comes to like getting I can't remember shit back, is that like I am a 1-person team, similar to how you kind of operate like Rant 9 in a lot of ways. And so what all kind of 1-person team do?
I mean, that's where I think Descript would be really handy for you, because it does a lot for you, and like Descript has been making a lot of inroads with both podcast hosts and podcasts like Riverside FM, where you can bounce the audio from Riverside FM directly into Descript. And that just, it saves you one step of having to download the audio and then throwing it into Descript and then Descript uploading it. And, they've made Descript slightly easier to do like audio ducking and whatnot. And they have a their own AI tool called Studio Sound that you can turn on, and it just like has a meter where like you can take it from like 1 to 100.
Nice.
If the audio is pretty good, you only need to make it like 40.
I love Riverside. I
think Riverside FM is great.
All the ones we've done are great.
I mean, Zencaster, the one I used before Riverside, I've used it for another company that I do some editing for here in town, and it's massively improved too, where they've added video and their own sort of AI fixing of audio. It's really funny though, like those automatic tools do a much better job with bad audio than they do with good audio, because they almost always overdo it on good audio. Yeah. And because I'm such a audio sound perfectionist that it's it's difficult sometimes to judge how good it sounds, but they've gotten way better. Yeah. And for you, I think that'd be the easiest way of editing out big ums and gaps and whatnot, because the script makes it look like a Word document, and so it makes it much easier to edit because you can see what the person's saying. Yeah. So
I think like really where I'm at in the process or the project management of getting it back, I think, is that like I want to have another brainstorming session, like I guess with myself, to like reassess if like my questions are good, like if the flow makes sense, and then I also want to like introduce ad breaks, or not necessarily ad breaks, but like pause, like conversation pauses. Yep. Where's the best place to do that? Is that as I transition from the good memory to the bad memory, kind of that's like the first step, I think. But then the second step would probably be recording. I think I would need to get a bunch of things recorded first, because that was kind of how I did it. Like season 1 was just recorded a bunch of things, and then like I think I edited every one of them, and then by the end of like November of 2020, I was like, okay, I have 7 episodes and they're edited, they're ready to go. I don't know when I'm going to release them, but then I did release them. And so then I think I like that like batch recording style, because then I'm able to think, especially since like the conversation doesn't need to be timely in any way. Like it kind of is just a capsule, time capsule, if you will. But the marketing is so hard too. Like I don't know what to do with the marketing. I know a little bit more now what I need to do, since like, doing Grow With Us has really been helpful for that. But
I'm much more pushy with my clients than I am with myself on how often they should be mentioning the podcast. Yeah. But yeah,
I like only tweeted out each episode once, and I posted it on my Instagram stories, not on my Instagram, like not even a post, a stagnant post. In my bio, it says, listen to my podcast, and that's it. And I'm like, why is nobody listening?
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is like we are on a live stream. By the way, we are at Aaru Entertainment here in the Innovation District, and come down. You can literally hear us from this room that we're in. Come distract us or come talk. Like we'll talk to anybody.
Take questions.
But we're on a live stream podcast talking about our podcast. So we're going full meta here. Not Meta the company. They're the worst.
Well, we're also business people.
We are businessmen. Yes. So. Yeah. Humanity is our business. But yeah, I mean, like again, a lot of podcasters started with it as a hobby and taught themselves how to edit, and it's still crazy. I'm still learning things every time I edit an episode, and mostly my biggest problem today is learning, like some people just speak softly no matter what level you set the microphone at, and it's how to handle that. So
that's very fair. We love the boots are made for walking.
Yes.
I love it. No, it's interesting, like something that I found with like, I guess Grow With Us, but also with I can't remember shit a little bit, is that it's interesting to hear, I guess when you're like listening back at editing, you're kind of hearing yourself not in the conversation, or you're hearing yourself separate from the conversation as it happened, and kind of hearing like things that people say, and you're like, does this make sense, or am I supposed to keep this like ramble part in, or like, is this, I don't know, like conversations aren't always meant to like, be A to Z and you're able to follow everything. But something like I guess I had the ability to edit out like context, and context is so important in a lot of the storytelling that like we're talking about with, I can't remember shit at least, and also with Grow With Us, especially when like we have to cut super long episodes, and like that's so hard because I'm like, as much as I want to include like this section because it's like truly how the conversation progressed, it doesn't make sense towards our goal for the episode. And that's like that's been like a fun lesson to kind of learn. And I think it takes like what's the word I'm thinking of? Like an editing process, and it takes like bouncing it off of people. But I don't know. It's hard when things get on the cutting room floor.
Well, and it's also hard depending on how you handle the conversation. If any part of a large section you want to cut gets referenced in another part, then you have to like find that part. And like, for example, your Pot for Good episode, we spent like 30 minutes talking about politics, which really had nothing to do with our overall conversation. And so I decided to cut it. But like, luckily we moved on from that and had a whole other, But a lot of times Chris and I, make in jokes to something that had happened previously in the podcast. And so I have to be very careful about cutting something out because then it won't make sense later.
Yeah.
And,
which is it's so hard. And like, I don't know.
Podcast editing is hard, y'all.
I don't know the way to do that properly because it makes me think like, oh, I need to have more front end guidance for the direction of the conversation, or I need to learn how to transition in and out of conversations without referencing. But callbacks are fun.
Callbacks are fun.
Anytime you're trying to like insert any like comedic timing into it too. I mean, that's kind of just like my personality too, is like referencing things all the time. I'm a huge referencer.
I mean, like, listen, as a nerd, like all of my, like I'm making references to Simpsons episodes from 20 years ago all the time. So it's,
because that's my way of trying to see or feel to anyone else that might have my same interests.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's how you find out if, like, especially as you get older, trying to connect with, to see if people get your sense of humor is like, I'll drop a reference from like Army of Darkness or from early Simpsons and see if they get it, or MacGruber. And
I was gonna say, every Simpsons reference is gonna go right over my head. That show's been on too long. I've not watched a single episode, maybe two, maybe one or two.
I mean, I don't want to get into like only the early Simpsons were good, but like at the age I was, especially with like the Conan O'Brien years when he was the head writer or one of the writers.
Wait, I did not know that.
Yeah,
he head wrote The Simpsons for a while.
Yeah. He wrote what most people consider some of the best Simpson episodes.
Okay.
And his sense of humor, you realize now that you've seen like his late night show and like his other things, like you can see it you can more clearly see it in the Simpsons episodes now that you watch, knowing that he wrote them. He's also on like a lot of the commentaries, like he went back into the commentaries when they released them.
One of these podcasts that I listen to, I will shout them out because I really love this podcast and I've seen them live. It's called Ruined. The two hosts like retell the plot of a horror movie to each other.
Oh, nice.
One's seen it and one hates horror movies, so she just wants to know what happens. But the one that never watches the movie, her name's Allison. Her frame of reference, and she kind of always talks about like the cultural like minutia and like how you might have heard about something but not know the details of it, like a scary movie. Like everyone knows what Friday the 13th is, even if they haven't seen the movie.
Yep.
But her like frame of reference is always Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes. And like, how many episodes of that have they done? I don't understand like what the premise is. Like, it's so interesting.
There's so many references to like films and music and whatnot that I got from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And like, for example, like I used to, like when I had to justify being able to watch The Simpsons, say to my parents, like I explained to them that I learned like US historical facts from The Simpsons.
Oh, because they are, I mean, I think it's so interesting that like South Park has made fun of this in a way too, but the writers on The Simpsons, like it comes up on Twitter all the time, how they like predict the future or whatever. It's like, like they have this like random scene from, I don't know, like some 2000s episode where Trump runs for election and wins.
Yeah. And like,
it's like, wait, what?
Yeah. Because like, and then President Lisa has to clean up his mess. Like that was the point of that episode. Yeah. And the joke was, The Simpsons have already done it. Like, there was a whole South Park episode about that. And I think in that same episode, South Park made fun of Family Guy and their like non sequitur cutaways where like it was like manatees hitting a ball two balls into a thing, and then that's what they'd make the two balls just had two random thoughts on them, and they would turn that into a scene. Anyway, this has gone in a very weird direction.
That sounds like South Park, but also I'm like, they probably had something very explicit next.
Yeah.
The next thing was like,
Yep.
a dick joke or something.
I feel like right now what's happening is there's music going on outside and a train's going by.
Both.
So
we're getting loud vibrations.
Yeah, for our listeners, our two viewers, we apologize if you hear that. I hopefully turn his mic down so you don't hear that. But again, this room still not as bad as 36 degrees north for recording.
It's actually, it's open room, and we're still. I don't necessarily have the computer in front of me to see if we're picking up ambient sound or anything, but it seems like a good little recording spot.
Yeah, I like it. I love doing. Andy Cagle, the owner of the Inner Circle Vodka Bar, he's a huge Wheel of Time nerd, and so we did a Wheel of Time podcast when season 1 started, and we'll probably do another one when season 2 starts. But like, we would do it like on Thursday nights at his bar, and there'd be like nobody there, to just be us talking about it, but it was fine. I enjoyed it. It's. Really, a lot of podcasts is a way of people just having conversations with people they're interested in talking to, and hoping those conversations are interesting to other people. Like, I know a lot of comedians, especially who have podcasts, pretty much use podcasting as a way of like keeping in touch with their friends.
Yes, exactly. And that's the main outlet for them, which is interesting.
But
there's so many different types of podcasts that can do. I don't know. There's some podcasts, like at least this Ruined one that I listen to, and then also My Favorite Murder, which is like my favorite podcast probably ever. Really, like my podcast reference is that it's just the two hosts. Either the guest is the product or the like concept is the product, which is kind of interesting to like dissect, because on My Favorite Murder and Ruin, they both are only the two same hosts, static hosts, but shifting topics. Then with like our podcast that we kind of do, it's the other way around, where our guests are the people that produce or that essentially create the episode.
Yeah,
they're our conversations with them. And I don't know. I feel like I like listening to both. It just depends on the way that it goes. I feel like the people kind of crave or really dive into and get obsessed with the ones where it's the two hosts, if they really, really like the two hosts.
Yeah.
And then, but I think it's harder to like really not fall in love with, but like fall for a one host who's there every week talking to different people. I think about that with Grow With Us a lot, because I'm like, am I a character in this at all? Like, I am, because I'm the one facilitating the conversation. And people are probably tired of hearing me say like X, Y, or Z, the things that I say all the time. But it's like, maybe no one's thinking about that. No, maybe they are. I don't know.
Listen, most podcast listeners know exactly when to stop listening to an episode, right? if they've heard it 100 times, or most of the time I end up listening to the end credits of podcasts when like I'm in my car and I'm near my house and there's no reason to start a new one. And also, so it removes it from the playlist of episodes.
That's so funny. We do the same thing.
Yes. But no, you do a very good job of like asking a question, getting an answer, and then like if somehow you connect it to a personal anecdote you have, you talk about yourself in a way where it's not just like an NPR interview.
Oh my gosh, I try to, because I'm like, it would be dry if we weren't making this a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I do reference like a lot of things that I find similar. Like one thing that we've seen this in a lot of Grow With Us episodes, but the character of Downtown being like always referenced and referenced in a very similar way. There's only so many personal anecdotes that I can mention, except if the person engages with me differently in the way that I respond. So that's like, it's almost like I throw it out there to see if there is anything to go off of, but sometimes there's not. And it's like, okay, well then we're just going to breeze to the next question.
Should we make a Downtown Tulsa drop for Grow With Us?
I don't know.
Like cut to like the Downtown song, or like,
like a cutaway, or like
just like a sound effect. Like I have because I-244 comes up a lot in Pod for Good Conversations, I made a evil I-244 sound effect where like it's me and a thunderclap, and then I made my voice like really like alter, I almost sound like witchy in a way, like
or can we just insert Macklemore's Downtown?
We could do that too. We could do that.
That would be really silly, but I would laugh at it. We can think it's a great idea all day, but we have to get approval. So
Of course we do.
let's think about
Chelsea, get ready for that.
Yeah.
So
get ready to laugh.
Yeah. No, I mean, good podcasting is all about liking the hosts and thinking them as friends because they're in your ears. Again, this is why I tell all people who ask me about starting a podcast, and I always tell them, like, you become people's friends even though you've never met them.
Yeah.
Or they'll feel like they're your friends.
So I don't know if I've told you this, but like at Tulsa Remote or at a Tulsa Remote event where it's like the new Tulsans coming to town or whatever, they kind of invite like community partners. I went and gave a speech about in Tulsa, and I use that up. I use like any time I get to talk about in Tulsa to talk about Grow With Us because it's like, of course, something that I'm like very much involved in. But someone came up to me afterwards and was like, "You're the podcast guy," and I knew you were the podcast guy before you said that you were the podcast guy because I listened to the podcast. I was like, "Wait, what? That's like the reach and all of those things that are really cool." But it was like probably the first organic interaction where that ever happened. I think a lot of people know that I like podcasts now, and I have my own. So like people on Twitter, like no, but like I don't interact with my Twitter mutuals, IRL, like very often, really. Like so many, my online following is like, I don't know, there's like 840 people that follow me on Twitter. I don't see any of them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so the people that I do produce content for are like actually outside of that in a lot of ways, like Grow With Us audience. And then, you know, the potential audience of like, I can't remember shit. Like, I think I probably haven't interacted with a lot of those people ever, but maybe I'm their friend.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
No. It's interesting. Like when I was helping Tulsa Remote do their candidate interviews, a lot of people would Google me before the interview, and they would see the interview we did with the former director of Tulsa Remote.
That was like the first pod forget I ever listened to.
Yeah, it's still our most downloaded episode.
Really?
Yeah, which is why I should get them back on for another one if they'd ever answer my emails. But
what is he doing? Or what's that guy doing? Aaron Bosel, right?
Yeah, Aaron Belsley.
Belsley,
he's like doing some consulting stuff now. So
nice. He was a good guy.
Yeah,
I really liked that.
We had coffee at that place whose name I can't remember. So no, Aaron's a great guy, and that was a great interview. That was very early on in Pod for Good too. But like, because if you Google Tulsa Remote, like that podcast still shows up in the Google searching. I don't know how I did that. I'm terrible at Google SEO stuff. Spoiler alert, not great at it. Don't know how it works. But my name or Tulsa Remote, those two things, like it comes up, and so people would listen to the episode before our interviews a lot. And so when I've run into people who moved here whose interview I did, they're like, I don't know, it feels great.
Yeah.
As much as I had to leave that job, that part-time job, because my podcasting work
journey was starting.
It was starting, yeah, and I was just too busy for it. I really do miss it because it was just a nice way of getting to know people who might be new Tulsans. So
and well, let's think about this or let's talk about this maybe offline, because I can give you some actual ways that we might be able to continue doing that, because I think it's really cool. I love talking to new Tulsans. I think it's I was able to meet like I did the Tulsa Remote like every 2 weeks or so. They do like a curated visit of people that want to come and have been accepted the program. And so like back in May or maybe June or so, these two guys like had come for a visit, and I don't know, like I have a good gaydar. I could tell that they were my people. And so we ended up like chatting, and while we were at the gathering place, part of the tour, and then they asked me to go to lunch afterwards, and then it became like kind of a group lunch. But I didn't ever get a concrete answer from them, like when they were going to move. And so kind of forgot like about them. Then I went to this party during Pride Week and saw them there, and they were like, "We just moved here last weekend." I was like, "Wait, what? That's awesome!" And so now we've like hung out a couple times. And so they live here. I've like been to they lived at the Cosmopolitan, which is really cool.
No, nice.
That place is so nice.
I bet that place is very nice.
It's like
not cheap.
Insane. They have a movie theater.
They have a movie theater?
They have a gym. They've got like a yoga studio. It's really crazy. And they have a rooftop pool. But all that is to say, like, that was like such a cool experience to kind of see like them before they moved here, them the day, like the weekend they moved
Yeah.
here, and then like it kind of integrate them into like my circle of relations here. Cause like, I don't know, Tulsa's big, but it's small. And I have a lot of people that I know,
Yeah.
but not a lot of people that I hang out with all on like a daily, weekly basis or whatever. Like that's still the hard part that I'm figuring out.
Yeah.
as an
Listen,
adult.
adult friendships are it's
I
everyone's
struggle with kid friendships my whole life, teenage friendship. Like
Yeah.
it's just a constantly evolving, I guess, thing.
No, I remember interviewing a guy who worked for a video production company, and we got along really well and talked. Like the conversation went on longer than the 20 minutes it was supposed to, and then he moved here, and then we ran into each other at a thing at Atento, like one of their first Friday things, and then we had lunch like a couple weeks later.
Nice.
And like we're both like New York Knicks basketball fans. It was perfect. So if you're listening, reach out to me again. We should get some more coffee.
Yeah, for real. Oh, look, I've got two friends walking in the door. What's going on, friends? We're good. We are live streaming right now to a total of
2 people.
2 people.
So
4 people.
that's right.
This is the original live stream.
Yes. Yeah. Talking and listening.
This is celebrated Grow With Us 2-time guest,
Yeah.
Patrick Osford, in our presence.
So
Are you guys hungry? I'm hungry. You
you're
gonna
gonna go lunch?
break?
Yes,
Yeah.
I will take a break now because I have Pot for Good shirts to pick up. So I'm very
Yes.
excited about that. Merch.
Super excited.
Merch. So thank you to my dad and my wife for watching. And yeah, and
we'll see you tomorrow for your episode.
yes,
your Pot
yes.
for Good.
Again, the 2 people watching know this already, but we're doing a live Pot for Good as part of the Spark Summit tomorrow morning, 9:30 on the main Holberton stage. Come, it's gonna be great. Hopefully I'll get applause as I enter on the stage, which has always been a dream of mine.
Enter and exit.
Yep.
Yes. Enter
Yep.
and exit applause. It's gonna happen.
But for our live streamers, we'll be back. It's 1:41. We'll be back at 4:15 with Aaron Bean and Jess from Asimio to talk about their stuff and their podcast. So, Evan, thank you for coming and talking to me for like 2 hours.
Been a pleasure.
All right.
Pleasure.
Well, live streamers, we'll be back.
Bye, live.